What happens when a dream walks onto a stage already judged by smiles, whispers, and doubt? What happens when talent wears the face of poverty, and confidence is hidden behind worn clothes and nervous hands? Under the blinding lights of the America's Got Talent stage, a young man from the Philippines stood alone. The stage was massive, almost too big for someone who had spent most of his life singing in small corners of crowded streets. His name was Miguel Reyes, a Filipino singer with deep-set eyes and a quiet strength. He carried humility like a shadow and hope like a fragile flame that refused to die. Miguel was not alone in spirit. Behind every step he took was the memory of his mother, Lorna Reyes, a hard-working street vendor who raised him with patience and sacrifice. She was gentle but unbreakable, the kind of woman who believed in her son even when the world laughed first. Her belief had shaped Miguel more than any vocal lesson ever could. And sitting far away, behind a judging desk that had ended countless dreams, was Simon Cowell, known for his sharp eyes, high standards, and rare approval. Calm, experienced, and almost impossible to impress, Simon had seen thousands chase stardom. Very few stayed in his memory. As Miguel stood there, comparisons followed him silently. The hairstyle. The posture. The outfit inspired by another era. Some smiles in the crowd were not kind. To many, he looked like someone pretending to be Elvis rather than becoming something real. The air felt heavy with expectation and doubt. But what no one could see was the long road that had led him there. The missed meals. The nights singing under flickering lights. The years of being told that dreams were luxuries meant for other people. Could one performance rewrite a lifetime of being underestimated? Could a voice shaped by struggle silence laughter and turn it into awe? And could a man famous for crushing hope find himself frozen by a song he never expected to hear? That night was not just about music. It was about belief. It was about dignity. And it was about the moment when mockery meets truth, and loses. The stage was quiet. The journey was about to begin. Miguel Reyes grew up in a narrow neighborhood where homes stood close, but dreams felt far apart. The streets of his town in the Philippines were always alive with noise, vendors calling out, children running barefoot, radios playing old songs through broken speakers. In that noise, Miguel found comfort. It was where he learned to listen, and where his love for music quietly began. He was a simple man with a soft-spoken nature. Miguel rarely drew attention to himself unless he was singing. Off stage, he was reserved, almost invisible. On stage, or even on a sidewalk corner, something inside him woke up. Music gave him courage that words never could. He admired Elvis not just for the voice, but for the emotion, the way one song could carry loneliness, hope, and strength all at once. Life had never been gentle with Miguel. His father passed away when he was young, leaving his mother, Lorna, to carry the weight of survival alone. Miguel helped where he could. Setting up her stall, carrying supplies, counting small coins at the end of long days. Some nights, money was short. On those nights, Miguel sang softly to himself before sleeping, as if music could protect him from worry. He never trained in fancy studios. His practice came from repetition, singing while working, humming while walking, memorizing songs from old videos watched on borrowed phones. He had a habit of closing his eyes while singing, not to impress, but to escape. When his eyes were shut, the world felt kinder. Now, standing on the biggest stage of his life, Miguel felt torn between fear and faith. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to steady his breath. Doubt crept in quietly, reminding him of every time people laughed or dismissed him. Yet beneath that doubt lived something stronger, a promise he had made to himself and his mother. Miguel did not believe he was special. He only believed he was honest. Honest in his struggle. Honest in his love for music. For Miguel Reyes, the greatest battle was never the stage or the judges. It was the quiet war inside him, the one that followed him everywhere. All his life, Miguel had been seen as someone chasing a dream too big for his place in the world. Neighbors admired his voice but rarely believed it could take him anywhere. Music, they said, was beautiful, but unreliable. It could not pay bills. It could not replace security. Each time Miguel chose to sing instead of rest, doubt tightened its grip around him. Loneliness became his constant companion. While others his age moved forward with stable jobs and clear paths, Miguel remained stuck between hope and guilt. Hope, because music was the only thing that made him feel alive. Guilt, because every dream he chased felt like a burden on his mother's tired shoulders. Lorna never complained, but Miguel noticed the lines on her face growing deeper with every passing year. There were nights when regret whispered loudly. Regret for not choosing an easier life. Regret for believing in something invisible. Regret for moments when he wondered if his dream was selfish. Those thoughts hurt more than hunger or exhaustion ever could. What hurt most was being misunderstood. People laughed when he dressed like Elvis. They smiled politely when he sang, as if humoring a child. Their reactions taught Miguel to lower his expectations, to protect himself from disappointment. Slowly, confidence turned into caution. The invitation to audition changed everything, but not in the way people imagined. Instead of excitement, it brought fear. The stage represented possibility, but also final judgment. If he failed here, there would be nowhere left to hide. No more, maybe someday. Only proof that the world had been right all along. Miguel carried the weight of his past onto that stage. Every ignored performance. Every unpaid hour. Every time he stood alone while others moved on. His dream had survived for years, but it was fragile now, shaking under pressure. The central problem was clear. This was not just about winning or losing. It was about whether Miguel could finally forgive himself for dreaming. And whether one song could be enough to justify a lifetime of believing when no one else did. Miguel stepped onto the stage, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The audience buzzed with whispers, half curiosity, half amusement. Some smirked at his retro suit, the slicked-back hair, the obvious nod to Elvis. Even Simon Cowell leaned back slightly, his expression a mix of skepticism and mild interest. Then, Miguel closed his eyes. He inhaled deeply, feeling the lights, the distance, and every quiet moment that had led him here. He felt the weight of every struggle, every lonely night, every whispered, "You can't," turn into energy inside him. The first note came softly, almost fragile. It hung in the air, catching people off guard. There was no grand gesture, no desperate plea, just a voice filled with raw honesty. And then something happened. The melody swelled. The audience quieted. The laughter and whispers faded into silence. Simon's eyes widened. His pen froze above the scorecard. He had seen countless acts. Some talented. Some polished. Some lucky. But he had never heard a voice that carried both pain and joy in equal measure. Miguel's voice was not just singing, it was telling a story of every missed opportunity, every sacrifice, every tiny hope that had refused to die. The twist came in the middle of the song. Miguel, inspired by the moment, added a subtle improvisation, a high note that was impossible to ignore. The crowd held their breath. Even the judges leaned forward, as if drawn by an invisible force. Simon, known for his steel demeanor, looked stunned. His expression was no longer critical, it was raw surprise, awe, and something unspoken, a rare recognition of pure talent. Miguel opened his eyes for the final chorus, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. He was no longer the boy who worried about judgment. He was a storyteller, a dreamer, a Filipino Elvis who had taken the stage not just to perform, but to be seen and heard for the first time. When the last note faded, the silence lingered for a heartbeat longer than expected. Then, slowly, the audience erupted, not just clapping, but standing, cheering, shouting. Simon Cowell remained still, almost frozen, as if the weight of what he had just heard needed time to settle in. In that moment, Miguel realized something life-changing. The world could doubt him all it wanted, but his voice, his story, could speak louder than any mockery, fear, or skepticism. This performance was no longer about winning a competition, it was about finally proving to himself that dreams, no matter how fragile, could become real.